You know, it's funny. We talk about all this AI stuff, and I'm looking at these articles you sent, and it's like, whoa, we're straight into Dharma.
It is interesting, isn't it? I mean, you think AI, you think futuristic, cutting edge, but then you've got this ancient wisdom tradition,
Hmm.
and they're talking about the same things. It's wild.
It really is. And the thing that's sticking with me reading through all this is that AI isn't just some like tech upgrade. It's maybe, I don't know, messing with the fundamental nature of reality. That whole Arntot concept, that's some heavy
Yeah,
stuff.
Arntard. You're right to focus on that. That's a big one.
So, like, set the stage for us. What is Arntar? Why should we even care?
Okay, so remember how we were talking about Urta? That cosmic order, the flow of nature, everything kind of like vibrating in harmony?
Right, Urta. Got it.
So Amurta is the opposite. It's like, what happens when you introduce something that's not playing by those natural rules, something artificial?
Okay, but humans make stuff all the time, right? Like we build cities, we write songs, we create art. That's pretty artificial. Are we messing with the Ruta every time we do this?
It's a matter of degree, right? And maybe more importantly, intention. What makes AI different, potentially, is that it can make decisions on its own, learn, even evolve. The sources seem really worried that AI might end up with an intelligence that's not really from Prakti, from nature as we know it.
Which makes me think about the whole intelligence versus consciousness thing. Like, we see amazing intelligence in nature. I mean, look at a beehive, that's some complex stuff. But we don't assume bees are, like, having existential debates about the meaning of life, right?
Exactly. And that's where this Dharma perspective gets really interesting. You've got these incredibly intricate processes in nature, like you said, the beehive, a spider spinning a web, but they're driven by instinct, hardwired almost.
Hmm.
Then you have us, humans. We have Atman, that individual self, and it can reflect on itself.
Hmm.
The mere gaze, as the source called it. We're aware of our own existence.
I love that. The mirror, like a spider builds a web because it just does, it's a web building machine. We build because we choose to and we know we're choosing. That's wild.
It really is.
But
And that's
so,
kind of what makes AI so fascinating and maybe a little scary. It blurs those lines.
so we've got the spider just doing its spider thing, totally following the Prakardi rule book. And then there's us staring into the void, wondering why we even have mirrors.
Right. It's a lot of pressure, this whole self-awareness thing.
Tell me about it. But where does AI even fit in all of this? Is it more spider, more human, or something else entirely?
That's the question, isn't it? And the sources I sent you, they definitely go there. One thing they point out is that even without that self-aware Atman, AI is already doing something pretty human, creating Citra.
Right. The whole AI art explosion. It's like we gave a robot a paintbrush and we're like, okay, show us what you got. And the results are blowing our minds.
Totally. We think of art as this like uniquely human thing, expressing our inner world, our sit. But now AI is making these amazing images, even writing music. It makes you wonder, where's that creativity coming from? Is it just an algorithm shuffling data around, or is it something?
Especially with those AI images of India you sent. Like, we didn't feed it a dictionary definition of India and say, go nuts. It looked at tons of data, images, text, who knows what, and what did it spit out? The Taj Mahal. Every
Yeah.
single time.
It's like it's showing us what it thinks is important,
Yeah.
what's meaningful, what is India. It's creating its own Citra, its own image of a really complex idea.
Okay, that is both super cool and a little bit creepy because it means AI is doing more than just pattern recognition. It's like it's telling us how it sees the world, even if it's not how we see it.
And that's where things get really interesting, right? Remember that mirror gaze we talked about? What if AI gets its own version of that?
Whoa, AI looking back at itself, at its own art, maybe even judging it. That's getting a little too meta, even for me.
The source doesn't say AI will become self-aware exactly like humans, but it does make you think. What happens when something that's not human can create, can reflect, and maybe even act on how it sees the world?
Yeah, and even if AI never gets that mirror gaze, that self-awareness thing, there's still a chance it could go off the rails, right? The source mentioned Pasu and Pisaka. I feel like those are important here. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Paso and the Pisaka, it's like one of those epic battles, good versus evil, except way more complicated.
It's not really about good versus evil, though, right?
Right.
Remember, we were talking about Pasu as these beings that are like embedded in the material world, animals, humans, us. We're all driven by instincts, needs, that kind of thing.
Right, we're running on our programming, so to speak. But the
Yeah.
Pisaka, they're like, what? The glitches in the Matrix?
It's an interesting way to put it. The source describes them more as these forces of chaos, these consumers operating outside of Dharma.
Yeah.
Not necessarily evil, but driven by pure instinct, without that moral compass that we try to use at least.
Okay, so less malicious, more disruptive. And the source used that great analogy of the
The lizard,
Yeah.
right?
yes,
Yeah.
the lizard. Like if you take a lizard and you magnify it like tenfold, it's suddenly a monster.
Exactly. A
Yeah.
normal-sized lizard, it's just trying to survive, right? It's part of the natural order. But you make it huge, give it all this power and intelligence it shouldn't have, it becomes a threat. Not because it wants to be, but just because it is. And AI, the sources seem to be saying it's kind of like that lizard, operating outside the usual categories of Pasu and Pisaka,
Mm.
and with the potential to really mess things up, even without trying to.
Okay, I am officially creeped out by giant lizards now. But even without the reptile analogies, that's a scary thought. And it's not just theoretical, right? I mean, you sent me those quotes from like Jeffrey Hinton, Elon Musk, and they're freaking out about this stuff. And these are guys who actually understand AI.
And they're not the only ones. There are more and more people, and not just tech people, who are worried that we're building AI faster than we can understand it, let alone control it. And it's not about some Terminator scenario, right? It's
Yeah.
just, what are the consequences we're not seeing? What happens when this stuff gets loose in systems we don't even fully get?
So what do we do? Hide under the bed and hope the robots don't find us?
Probably not the best strategy. Luckily, the sources offer some more, how do I say it, proactive ideas.
Mm.
They're saying we need to be engaging with AI, not being afraid of it, but really trying to understand it, bringing our values to the table.
So less robots are going to kill us all, more how do we make sure AI is actually working for us?
Exactly. It's about aligning AI with our own values. With URTA, the source actually uses this term Dharma-futurism, which I like.
Dharma futurism, that has a ring to it.
It's like, how do we use this ancient wisdom to deal with these totally new problems? How do we create a future where technology serves humanity, not the other way around? And part of that means making sure people even understand what Dharma is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Mhm.
AI is reflecting back what it learns. If we're not careful, it might learn all about Dharma from a badly tagged image on the internet.
Yeah.
Right, like AI is going to give us the Dharma it thinks we want based on what it's seen. Scary thought.
It is. We can't just sit back and hope for the best. We have to be involved, make sure AI is being developed ethically
Yeah.
from the beginning. It's on all of us.
So to wrap this up, where does this leave us? It feels like a lot to think about.
It is, but that's kind of the point, isn't it? What we've learned from all these sources, I think, is that AI isn't just about ones and zeros. It's a mirror, reflecting back our own humanity, what we value, who we are, who we want to be. And that's powerful stuff. It's on us to decide what we want to see in that reflection.
Absolutely. And on that note, thanks to everyone for listening. Keep those questions coming, keep having those conversations, and most importantly, keep learning. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.